Welcome to another edition of Iconic Creators. I am your host, Baxter Colburn. I'm excited because I've started to do a lot of different interviews for the show, and we've had a lot of fun the last couple of weeks. And I've been able to talk to people that I don't know very well as a couple of people that I do. Today's guest falls under the category of know them really well because she's a dear friend of mine. She literally lives in the apartment I used to live in now. That's how good of friends we are. I've worked with her on multiple projects over the last couple of years. She's an incredible photographer here in the Green Bay area. And I'm thrilled to welcome Lauren Griepentrog to the podcast. Welcome, Lauren. Great to have you.
Great to be here. Thank you, Baxter.
Absolutely. Lauren is, the official business name is Lauren McKenzie Photography, if I'm not mistaken, right? You can find her on Instagram, Facebook. Are you on any other platforms that people could find your work?
Pretty much Instagram, Facebook, and LaurenMcKenziePhotography.com.
I love it. I love it. So talk to me, Lauren. I'm always fascinated by people's origin stories. How did photography become a thing? Because I know you as that, but you have a history with volleyball. You have a history with a lot of different things, right? But how did photography become this maybe side gig or side passion that turned into what you do now full time?
Right. It's like, I feel like my story is kind of interesting because I grew up very artistic. I've always been very involved with music. I played the piano my whole entire life. I've taken up guitar the last few years. I've always loved music. I always loved drawing. I would always be that kid that drew things for my parents, up until high school age. And it wasn't until junior year of high school when I took a photography class that I started liking it. And, it kind of stuck in the back of my head. And I get to college and you have to take an art class in college. So I said, okay, I'll take my mom's camera with me to college and use it in this photography class. And that's when I really started liking it. So I set up like a media day for our volleyball team at Carroll. Just for funsies, I was like, you know what, let's try this. And I felt so comfortable directing everything. And I really took a liking to that sort of dynamic with the camera. And then a year down the road, I was doing, couples shoots for my friends and their boyfriends, like friend shoots, graduation shoots at Carroll, really starting to lean into it. And my photography professor at the time was like, hey, you should actually pursue this. I think you'd be a great business woman as well as being a photographer. And that really stuck with me. And it took me a while, obviously, to bring that into fruition. But I would say just over time, I just slowly made an Instagram for it. I wasn't really sure where I was going with it, started making investments into better equipment. And I think over time, it kind of snowballs. And I did have to wake up one day and make a decision okay, I'm going to do this full time and it's going to be my career. And this is super serious and something that, it's almost unintentionally I built over time. And so that's how I got to be a full-time photographer now, just slowly over time, really grinding away at working other jobs at the same time and making sure I was stable in that aspect of it. But, once it came to life as being its own business, it's I can't go back,
I think that's fascinating. I don't know most of that. So that was fascinating for me to learn that. I feel like I know you pretty well, but I don't think I knew a lot of that backstory because you and I have known each other for, is it 3 years now? I think
3 years.
That.
Yeah.
So, and our origin story is my favorite because I was minding my own business in a coffee shop in De Pere and this random blonde girl walks over to me and she's like, "Are you Baxter?" And I'm like,
yes.
Yes. I'm like, can I help you? And you're like, and you introduced yourself, and I felt so bad because I did not hear your name. You're like, I'm Lauren McKenzie. I'm like, okay. And then we were talking, and I think right at the end, I don't know if I re-asked you again or you left, and I was like,
yeah.
I don't remember her name.
It's so funny. I remember that day, and I remember thinking okay, I need to start networking better. I just need to start getting to know people in the creative field and having these, I saw you as a mentor even before introducing myself to you. I'd been following you for quite some time, but it's funny because
Which is funny because you're a way better photographer than I am. So I was like, wait a second, hold on.
Well, the best part is I remember being in line line to get my coffee, looking at my phone, seeing if it was Baxter or Braxton. I thought your name was Braxton. And I was like, I cannot mess this up. Like, I cannot mess this up.
But I wouldn't have blamed you because the amount of Braxtons and I've gotten Braxton, Dexter, Spencer. I've gotten a
Yeah.
whole spew of things that people will throw at me, and I'm just like, I just have been like, yeah, sure,
Yep,
whatever,
right.
whatever you need to remember my name, that's fine. Like whatever.
So funny.
But I appreciated the boldness of it though, right? Like you stepped out because I mean I've tried to be better about this with like my Instagram or Facebook friends that
Yep.
I'm like, oh yeah, I talked about them for years. I've never met them in person, right? Some of
Right.
my best friends I've never physically met, which is
Right.
kind of funny to say, right, in this
Yep.
world, but that's also so much more acceptable. But your boldness, to do that, right, struck up a good relationship. And we got coffee a couple of times. We've then been able to now work on a lot of projects together, and just support each other's businesses in a lot of ways. But I remember, and I'm curious if you remember this or not. I remember sitting with you and our good friend Ben, New Year's Day in 2024, and had a good conversation about stuff. But I remember like listening to you talk about the way that you were thinking about going full time, but you still hadn't yet.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, I'm like, I know you're going to do it this year,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm really curious for you because I know you said you woke up one morning and had to make that decision.
Yeah.
But also in this creative field, you have to eventually get out of your own way and be like,
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing enough, right? So
Yeah.
what was that get out of your way moment to be like, no, I'm really good at what I do. And also like, yep, like it's time. Here we go.
Yeah, interesting. I feel like New Year's Day last year, just like the new year turning, it was like my golden year last year. So I turned 24 on April 24th in 2024. And I feel like I'm not very like Taurus energy. I'm not very like moon spiritual like that. But I was thinking about it for a long time and thought, like this is a really big year for me. And I really want to start leaning into what makes me happy and what makes me really fulfilled. And that was photography. Like, yes, I loved personal training, love fitness. I love taking care of myself. I love making sure people around me are healthy and happy. But just something about photography, I just knew I loved it and I love the way I can communicate with people through it, whatever. So it was kind of like it had to be a premeditated decision, but I do remember like it weighing really heavy on me in like those winter months of early last year. I kept looking at my schedule, booking more weddings, April, okay, we're gonna get a little busy. May, wedding every weekend, seniors every day. Like it just started hitting me all at once, and it was really stressful actually thinking about, okay, I have to wake up at 4:30 a.m., get into the gym, do a few clients. How much work can I do in the middle of the day? Go back in the evening, train more clients, go back home, do a shoot. It was like becoming daunting on me to the point of like I just had to be like, girl, be confident. Be confident because we are not doing a whole year of working ourselves to death. And I do feel like obviously in your own space of being your own boss, like there's always that temptation to overwork yourself. And that's like, you get it. Other creatives get it, other entrepreneurs get it, but I just knew that I couldn't put my full effort into photography and do good like work under my standard if I still was working another job, whatever that job would have been. Um and so it definitely was premeditated, but I would say within like a month I had like made my decision, planned out all my insurance and my finances and like got that all kind of lined up so that when the time came, like I knew I was like, I have to be done in May. Like I have to be done in May. It is such a busy month and it doesn't slow down from there. Like, so I kind of knew earlier in the year, but it definitely took a lot of stressing over, and planning and like careful consideration.
Well, and you have to, right? I mean, anytime, for those that don't know, right, you're not married, you don't have, none of that stuff. So it's not like you could say, okay, hey, honey, I'm going to go full time in my business. And if it flops, you're still working a 9 to 5 and we're good no matter what, right? Like it's you, like it was just you. It's only you in this moment, right? In the sense of like, I'm betting on myself. I have to do this. If I don't, like, hey, mom and dad, you got an extra room, right? Like it's kind
Yes,
of like,
exactly.
type of thing. Like, and you worked really, really hard. I remember talking to you. I don't remember if it was, I want to say you and I had gotten coffee like early spring, like even before you went full time. And I remember asking you about like, hey, like how many like, I remember asking you like financially, like how much money do you have like on the books for the year and type of thing.
Yeah.
I remember the number you told me. I don't have to say it out loud if you didn't want to, but I
Uh,
remember you telling me that number and I was like, oh my God, I'm like, why are you not doing this full time? Like you have that much money at that
Yeah.
point booked without any other shoots, any other anything at that point. I'm like, you'd be a fool not to do it, right? So
Yeah.
when you
And
told me a couple months later you were going, I was like,
you're
thank
like,
you.
okay, it's about
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
like
And
yeah.
honestly, like, I obviously like everything about my business pretty much just runs through me. And like, I needed you to tell me that. And like, my friend Ben that you met with me, like, he's an awesome, works in real estate, like, has big entrepreneur brain. My friend Matt, who is like a mortgage lender, he's always like, you got to quit. He always told me like you have to create space, and like creating space will open so many doors, and it really did. And like I needed people like you guys to tell me that, because I would have just kept like grinding away.
Yeah. It's
I
scary,
really
right?
needed that. It is, yeah.
How many times have you thought about quitting since you went full time?
None. Like,
Good.
actually, though, like, actually, obviously, it's hard. And especially in these slower, like, winter months, I'm kind of in like a lull of like, okay, do I just get like a fun job? Do I, really hone down and pursue more like branding work? I'm kind of in this like, I have decisions and I have choices like that I can make in different directions to go. But like, even now that, the income isn't really coming in as quickly, it's like, I really do enjoy where I'm at.
You're right. Talk to me about moments in 2024 for you that if you, I think you're like me, you're pretty laser focused when you're at the shoot, but I try to be better about this. And I know for one, when we did our shoot with the Packers, right? Like I took a second and stepped back and I was like, holy crap, like what are we doing
Yeah.
right now? Right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
how many times or what shoots last year did you step back even for just a second to be like, I get to do this? Like this is freaking cool.
I would say like big one was the Packers shoot. Just feeling like we were like VIP, I was like, wait a minute, like people are looking at me for direction here. Like that was kind of like okay, this is awesome. And then some dear friends of mine got married in Colorado this year, and it is a huge goal of mine to start doing more like traveling weddings and traveling elopements, more of like the micro wedding style. And and just being there, like taking a gondola up into the highest peak of the mountain, like with my camera, I'm just like, wait a minute. Like I remember buying this camera like 2 years ago, and it's a huge investment. Like cameras are not cheap. And at that moment of time, I was like, wow, I just drained my entire savings account on this. And like flash forward, 2 years, and I'm like in Winter Park, Colorado on a gondola, and even I got to shoot in Phoenix this year and DC, and like it's just connecting like the travel aspect to like the art is really 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 cool for me.
How
And
are these
those are
people
like
finding you?
moments. Instagram.
Really? So you're just getting cold messages from brides and grooms saying, "Hey, would you fly to San Jose to take my wedding
Yeah.
photos?"
And a lot of them are like, hey, we grew up in the Midwest and have either heard about you from other people, or like just looking at like photographers from the Midwest, because ultimately for them, I'm still going to be cheaper in like in regards to if they would hire someone in Phoenix or in Colorado or in Washington, like it's still going to be cheaper for them. And like maybe it is the Midwestern charm, of just like,
There is something to that, truly.
like I feel like we're easy to talk to, and like obviously I'm professional, but I'm very personable. Like it is my goal to make people feel comfortable rather than like be a drill sergeant when it comes to like business and photography. And I just feel like that it's inviting to people,
Oh,
and
I think
like
you do a great job of that, right? I mean, I enjoy. I'll brag about you because you won't brag about yourself. But like, I enjoy going to shoots with you and watching you do your craft. Right? Like, I've worked with
Mhm.
you and I've been a client of yours as well because you've taken family photos for us once as
Yes.
well. But you do. You have a professional but very natural and I don't know if playful is the right word, but it is like when you've
Yeah.
got this like, hey, like I'm here to have fun. You
Yeah.
obviously are here to do your thing, and I want to capture you as natural as possible.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
also like let's enjoy this time, right? We're together for
Mhm.
the next hour, two, three. It's a wedding day. We're together for 10, 12 hours, right? Like let's have
Yeah.
fun with it, right? It's a big day.
Right.
Like why not be excited about it?
Yeah.
So you've got that great energy about you that I feel like makes you very approachable, very easy to
Yeah.
talk to, and easy to take direction because it's not like, golly, this girl is so rude. Like she's just
Yeah.
like, go here, stand here. Because I've worked with photographers or I've seen
Yes.
photographers like that, and you're just
Same.
like, jeepers, like calm
Yeah.
down, right? Like take a
Mhm.
breath. Like why are you
Yeah. And
here
I
if
feel
this is
like,
such a burden to you?
right. I feel like a bigger compliment, like to me personally, is like, oh, you made us feel so comfortable. You made me feel so confident. Like that is just,
That's a
that
huge compliment
translates
to
to
you.
me as a huge compliment.
100%. I love that.
Thank you.
How would you describe the style of photography that you take?
So good question. I do feel like it's changed a lot over the years, like
Yep.
just with
I've
the
noticed it
times.
as a
Yeah.
consumer. I've definitely
Yeah.
noticed that that it's changed.
And I think it was more so of a like, what should I be doing versus what I want to be doing. And I feel like now, like, I'm getting really into like photos that I personally like love. Like, I know the clients are gonna love them, and that was like my main focus before. But I'm also like, wait, it's like I'm an artist, so I deserve to be creating things that I am also really proud of. So I feel like, especially with weddings now, I'm really focusing on like the documentary style, editorial, like painting a picture of the whole day. Obviously, like candids are great, but like the really, really just specific details that like can be so missed. And even like with engagement shoots, like telling a story, like let's go on a date and kind of go through the date and get you guys laughing and like really capturing emotion between you guys rather than just capturing like a photo of you guys.
I love it. Yeah, I'm looking through. I have your Instagram open in front of me, and I'm just kind of going through. My favorite is to do two things when I go to a creator's account: is to look at the photos they post, but then the ones that your clients tag you in,
Mm-hmm.
and just to kind of go see because I think you learn a lot about yourself as a creator when your clients, based off of like what your clients share too,
That's
or
so true.
brides,
Yeah.
grooms, seniors, right? Like
Yeah.
senior girls have to be probably some of the most you're probably always wondering the entire shoot, like, do they actually like me? Is
Yes.
this actually
Yes.
going well? Like, I think you're going
Yes.
great, but like, just because you're still trying to figure yourself out as a
Yeah.
17, 18-year-old girl and like, okay, yeah, you're supposed to tell me I look pretty, whatever, whatever. But like,
Yeah.
I think you learn a lot about, that's why I don't do seniors in general, but I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
but I think that's always an interesting piece for that, right? To kind of
Yeah.
to learn a little
Agreed.
bit and see yourself through the client's eyes a little bit too.
Yes. Very true.
I would love to know from your perspective when you are not working, which I know you do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How do you take care of yourself?
Interesting question. And um okay, like just completely honest, it was a big goal of mine in 2024 to take better care of myself. And I don't think I've really reached that to where it needs to be. Um, and I do think I I think for me, like, hmm, this is a hard question for me, Baxter, and you know it is. You know it is. Well, I would say like music is a big therapy for me, playing guitar and piano and stuff. Like all like my close friends know that. I just love music, listening to it, playing it, whatnot. No, I cannot sing. I wish. Um, I would say like I've really been trying to make an effort to carve out just like me time and be totally okay like not touching my computer for a whole day. And then again I help out with social media accounts, so like being on my phone is a huge thing of like the second I get on Instagram, it could just spiral into like 2 hours of looking for content and planning content and everything like that. So I would say just making like a big effort to carve out that time Like I literally have to be like, okay, it's in my calendar. Like I'm not this day, I'm off, you know. Um,
What do you do? I mean, I know this about you. Like, how active are you still staying with fitness or just any of
yeah.
that? Because you were a big runner. You obviously were a personal trainer, right? So we'll still
Mhm.
see the gym selfies every once in a while. But like,
Yeah.
how often is that? Because I've learned this right now. Video is a little bit different than photo, but we contort our bodies in ways that most normal people don't on a daily
Yeah.
basis, right? Or you're doing this, or you're here, you're like reaching up,
Yeah.
right? Like so, your body takes a toll, right? So like, is that fitness aspect of it very important for you, or how does that look on a weekly or monthly basis?
Yep. So it's still very, very important to me. And I am happy that it is because like I could have just stopped working out. You know, I don't work at the gym. It's not convenient anymore, but I still go to the gym probably 4 or 5 times a week. And thank you. Yeah. And honestly, like it's turned into a lot of like smaller workouts. You know, I'll go to the gym for 30, 45 minutes, just get done what I need to get done, do cardio 2 or 3 times a week. Like I'm still very regimented in it. And I do feel like that's like a big that is my thing every morning that I get to wake up and do that's really for myself. Yes, it impacts my business because it impacts like how I can move and my confidence and like all that. But that really is something like I don't think I would ever let go like in a long time. You know, that like schedule and just time I have for myself in the morning at the gym is like really important to me.
That's amazing. Now is it
Thank
still 4:30, or you're like, oh, 6 sounds great, 7 sounds great?
Yeah, whenever I wake up.
Okay, okay. I was gonna say some people are like, no, it's got to be 5 a.m. no matter what, and
Yeah.
others are like, like
Like
let's
sometimes I
just
wish I could be that person, but I just can't. I'm just like,
correct.
whatever, we'll get up and
Yeah,
have a slow morning and get to the gym whenever.
that's the fascinating piece about it. I would not change anything about my situation that I'm in, but there is still that piece of me, that question mark. Like if I was you, right? Like if I had no spouse and no kids, right? Like
Mhm.
how would that affect me as a business owner full time, right? Like because I see the
Interesting.
the
Yeah.
single no kid guys that are business owners that are running and grinding and doing all the stuff, and I'm like, golly, like honestly, that sounds kind of awful. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know, like, how would that work? Like, what would that look like? Because that's the difference, I think, between, myself and even you, right? Like, I have a deadline every day. Like, when my wife and my kids come home from school, like, work's done. Like, and I have to
Yeah.
be done, right? Type of thing.
Mhm.
And maybe I
Mhm.
can touch it again that night for a tiny bit, but like, that's when I get to spend time with Rachel, right? Or that's when, like, maybe, like, or the baby's been sick recently, so he's been like contact naps. So like, nope, like
Mhm.
you're with me, you're not going anywhere else, I'm not going anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
kind of locked
Exactly.
in, right? So there's always that piece of me that's curious because I'm like, great, like fitness is important to me too, but like it sometimes is 1 time a week and sometimes it's 4 times a week. But like
Yeah.
it's never the same because I love the creators, I love the people that are like, get a routine, stick to the routine. Da, 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 da. I'm like, absolutely. But how many
Yep.
kids do you have, and how happy is your
Right.
marriage? Right, is
So
always the two
true.
stuff I go back to on some of that. Like,
Yeah.
there's no amount of money to me personally that will make it worth sacrificing time with my family, right? Because
Agreed.
my kids
Yeah.
will only be kids for so long, and then they're going to be out of the
Yeah.
house, and then that's a whole different life and a whole nother conversation for another podcast. But
Yeah.
like, I try to remind other people with that, or that have young families, or want to get married at some point, or want to have kids at some point. I'm like, do the work now if you can, but also like be okay, like you said, like shutting it
Hmm.
down and being like, hi spouse, hi
Yeah.
kids, like I'm here with you in
It's
this moment.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even like I feel like this especially pertains to when I was still working like full time at another job and doing photography, but I felt so extremely disconnected from any friendship that I had. My family that lives literally 12 minutes away from me, and I think I'd go like months without seeing them. And like dating was not like a super possible thing for me because like I got so stuck in the routine of like my business is my partner, my business is my spouse, it's my kid. Like you get in this mindset of like nothing else matters besides this, and it's so toxic and so unhealthy. And I'm really happy now that I'm like opening up my headspace to like, okay, friends and family make the world go round. Like that is really what gives you happiness in the long run. Like if I wake up tomorrow and don't want to be a photographer anymore, fine, but like who's gonna be there for me, you know? Like you have to prioritize that because that's really like that's love, you know?
I say all that I said before, and now I'm going to say this out loud, and you're going to laugh at me, um, because I'm super guilty of this. How
Mhm.
often do you think about money?
Mm. Constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not an
Constant.
obsession, right? It's not a like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I need all this money. But it's a like,
Yeah.
okay, so if I get two more weddings, and okay, so March is a little quiet, and if I get three senior, okay, right? Like you're playing the
Yes.
math game of like, okay, bills times the amount this times this. Like it's not a like, okay, if I make three
Yeah.
hundred thousand dollars this year, I'll be happy. It's not really
Right.
about that,
Yeah.
for me personally, and I'm assuming for you as well.
Yeah.
But it's how hard is it not to, right? Like you lay
It
in bed at
is.
night and or you're on the couch just watching something and you're just like, okay, like,
You're thinking about
like
money.
yeah, all the
You
time.
are. And it's like it's crazy because now like I don't have a ton of money coming in. Obviously, like it's a slower time for me. You know, I don't have a wedding for a while. But then I look back to like September of this of 2024 was the most money I've ever made in a month. Like I you could not have told me years ago that like, I would make that in a month. But then like you look at February, like I could make $0 in February, you know, and that structure of like budgeting that you really aren't taught. Thankfully, my parents taught me a lot about like money and budgeting, being like very like financially aware. I'm so thankful for them for that because I would be like so in the hole, you know?
Mm. You have to be, right. That was something early on that a gentleman that I when I had a regular day job, a gentleman that was my boss, what was this, 5 6 years ago. I had talked about starting a business and all that, and one of the biggest things he told me, he was like, "Do not treat your business income like a slush fund." He's like, "So often we're like,
Yeah.
extra money, great," and people will just blow the money or sink their business because they're just using all that money for things that they just always wanted to buy
Yeah.
because it's extra
For
money.
instant gratification.
Correct, right? Like learn to pay yourself, learn to set your percentages, save for taxes, right? All of that. Like I pay myself. What am I? I depend. It depends. I rotate throughout the year depending on when the money is, but it's about between 35 and 40% of all my income pays Baxter Colburn, the employee.
Yeah.
So, and for some people that's like, okay, wow, that's not a lot or that's a lot, or some people do 50/50. Like every situation's different, right? Like I
Mhm.
knew with my family, I had to take 35 to 40% of my income to stay consistent with our financial situation. And
Yeah.
obviously I can increase that if I know I'm going to have a bigger month coming up, right? Or whatever that looks
Yeah.
like. But you have to be, but I like that it's completely separate. It's a completely different
Agreed.
bank. It's a completely different everything, right? There's no
Mhm.
weirdness or chance of like, oh shoot, I spent business money. Like, no,
Yeah,
there's, if
right.
I spent it, I did it on purpose, right? Type
Yeah,
of thing.
exactly.
I want to talk about Bridgeview, because you went and did a thing towards the end of 2024, and I felt like you were very quiet about it. And then suddenly
I
I was like,
was.
guess what,
Yeah.
everyone? You and Morgan Hicks, who's a phenomenal
Yep.
photographer here in the Green Bay
She
area,
is.
opened your own studio. And I
Mhm.
love it. I've used Bridgeview multiple times, for various types of shoots, whether it be photo, video, or even podcasting. It's a beautiful studio.
Mhm.
How did this come about? Tell me all the things. This is amazing.
Yeah. This is such a funny story and I feel like it speaks to like how spontaneous I can be. It Yeah. So it really wasn't a thought in my head. Like to be honest, I would have loved to open a studio someday, you know, 5 years down the line. It was like a goal of mine. Um, but I was scrolling through Marketplace one day and I saw this commercial space open and it was the studio. And I thought, wow, great lighting. Love the cream brick on the walls, original flooring. Let me reach. Yeah. 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 Love the natural light. So I reach out to the guy and he goes, okay, there's like two spaces in one. Um, and an artist, her name's Megan. She's an amazing artist. She signed for it already, but I have like, and I had 12 other people like lined up. I can put you in contact with her if you want to like work together. So literally within a day, I was on the phone with her, on the phone with the landlord, like, okay, how can we split this lease up and make it work with both of us? How much money is it going to be? And then I'm like, okay, this is happening. And I reached out to Morgan. I told her, I said, we have to get coffee tomorrow and talk about something super serious. And I sat down with her and I said, look, we're very close. We shoot together all the time. I trust you with my whole life. Like, should we do this business endeavor together? I'm like offering to you, you know, pay halvesies, use it whenever you want. It is our space. Like, we're doing it together. If not, totally okay. And Morgan looks at me and goes, oh yeah, I'm down. Like, I'm so down. I think within 3 days of me seeing it on Marketplace, lease was signed. We were making plans for the space. It was very, very, very spontaneous. And I don't regret it at all. Like, I love having this. I love having the space. And I think it is such something I can be very, very, very proud of. And it's just one of those things that's like funny looking back at it, you know?
Correct. Yeah. September, it
Yep.
looks like, right, is when it officially, you
Yep.
told the world about it. When did you
Yes.
start doing business in there?
So we started working on this space right away in the beginning of August. I think August 2nd is when I saw it on Marketplace. So we spent that month kind of planning, you know, we got the wall up now. I don't know if you saw it, but my dad and I finally finished that little section. But planning, furnishing, putting up lights, like it's small stuff that takes so much longer than you would think.
100%. Well, in a physical studio space, right, is such an endeavor, and there's
It
upkeep,
is.
and there's that constant thought, especially if you want others to use it, right? It's that constant thought of, okay, well, when Baxter's here, is Baxter going to like it? Or, oh, like you could get a random person that you don't know, like, who is this Molly? I don't know Molly, like, but Molly wants to
Yes.
use my space. I don't want Molly to go home to her friends and be like, oh, that space was
Oh, it was
crappy.
dirty. Yeah, well, it
Yeah,
was
right?
dirty. Like, not exactly. That's like a huge thing of me and Morgan work so well together. Like, okay, I'll go in before this person to make sure it looks good. Okay, I'll go in tonight, make sure it looks good. We have a renter tomorrow. Like, I'm so happy that she's in this with me. Like, it's such a good dynamic between us. And I do think Morgan is more organized than me. I love her. I need her.
We
So
all
it's
have
so
that friend.
Yes, so it's so helpful having her around to like keep me almost in check and just like be a business partner. It's been great. I couldn't have done it without Morgan.
That's
For
amazing. Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
And because you guys do weddings, you do a lot of stuff together, right? I've seen you guys
Yep.
co-shoot a lot of stuff together.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that is so cool. It's wonderful. You can go find it on Instagram. Bridgeview Studios is really, really. I think you guys have done a great job of establishing that as one of the best spots
Yeah.
to shoot in the Green Bay area. So
Thank
highly
you.
recommend it. And
We're
I'm not
very
just
proud
saying
of
that. So
it. Thank you,
the check
Baxter.
cleared before so that's why I said that. So that
Yeah,
was, you're
yeah.
welcome. So thank you for the money. I appreciate it. But yeah, I love this. I could talk to you all day, and I love talking to you. And I appreciate all that you do. Before we let you go, I would love to know what is one or two projects this year, as much as you can share, that you're just like over the moon about. Like, I get to travel here, or I get to shoot this, or what have you booked so far
Yeah.
that you're just like, can it please be this day now?
Yep. Okay. So I would say two. Well, I'm off to Colorado tomorrow, actually, to shoot some bridal portraits for one of my best friends. So that's very exciting. But I will be going to Utah and Colorado again in May. I'm helping a couple plan a micro wedding, which is really exciting. I've never like dipped my toes into like actual wedding planning. So I'm helping those friends plan a micro wedding in either Colorado or Utah. And then I also have I have an elopement this year for a couple that it was like, you know, when you book something, you're like, wow, that was so clutch of me. Like, it was one of those, like, it was one of those. I did an engagement shoot for this couple, and I was like, when are you getting married? And they said, oh, we're doing a tiny wedding in the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee, like really low key. So after I sent their engagement photos, I said, hey, take me with you. Come on now. Like, take me with you. It'll be so nice to know the photographer. Like, I've sold myself, and they agree. They're like, okay, you can come. So it's in August, but it's in the Smoky Mountains, like very small, intimate, you know, awesome Airbnb for the whole family to stay at. Like, that is just what I'm really trying to like focus more on for booking. And then one other thing too is I'm going to Scotland. I don't know if I told you about this. So
Buried
I'm
the
going
lead on that one.
Yes, I know.
Jeepers, Lauren.
I'm going to Scotland in April, actually over my birthday. I'm attending a photography retreat. Yes, for these photographers in Scotland and London area, and they're staging like a wedding at a castle, and like it's going to be like a very interesting like learning experience for me because I saw it on Instagram and I was like, again, spontaneously reached out asking if there were spots open, and she said yes, and I sent a deposit over. I was like, all right, I'm doing it. And like since then, now my mom and I have been planning like an actual trip out of it. But this year is like so huge for me and my travel. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. And you have that on your Instagram, right? It's like, take me with you anywhere, right? Like
Yes.
you're
Yep.
very obvious about like, I will go wherever you want.
Yes.
Please let me come and capture whatever the cool thing is that you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
That is so cool. Have you done Europe or any of that stuff before?
No, I am so excited.
Okay.
It's so charming. But I love one of my favorite places in the US is Boston because I love the charm.
I love Boston, yep.
Charm and the history and the cobblestone roads. Like that is so my vibe. And I know that Europe is just gonna be like insane.
100%. You're gonna love it. It's beautiful.
I'm gonna love it.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love it. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for your time today. Remind people again where they can learn more about you or reach out to you if they're interested in booking your services or just being your friend.
Yeah, so my Instagram for my business is Lauren Mackenzie Photography, and linked in there is my bio. Linked in my bio is my website that you can fill out a chat form and reach out on. Otherwise, I love when people just Instagram DM me. If you have any questions or are interested in booking, or again, just want to say hey, I'm always looking at my messages, and Facebook too. I don't go on Facebook as much, but you can find me on there at Lauren Mackenzie Photography.
Fantastic. Lauren Griepentrog, you're one of my favorite people, and I'm one of your biggest fans. So thank you so much again for being on Iconic Creators. Let's do it again soon, please.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you to all of you for tuning in today for another episode of Iconic Creators. A big thank you for Lauren being on the show and all of the guests we've had on so far. We've got more to come, so please stay tuned. Tell your friends, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, however you get your podcasts. Please feel free to do so. You can find me on Instagram at Colburn Creative Co. or at Baxter Colburn. For Iconic Creators, we will see you on the next episode next week. Have a great week, everyone.